Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is warnings you will wish you had acted on. All right, before we get started, yes, I'm doing a Friday night Bible study from 6:30 to 7:30 live on all of the places you can find us. This particular Friday, I'm going to be teaching through Revelation 10:11, and if we get there, chapter 12. At least we covered 3 chapters last week. And let me just say thank you. Thank you for your emails. So many times your emails send me information I would have never found on my own. So thank you very much for your emails. But I also want to say, I think it's showing us something. You know, Trump said, vote for me and I'll fix it. I think, okay, look at, we prophecy students have to be smarter than the average bear, okay? We can't always believe the news. We we can't always believe people who say they're prophets either. But be cautious. Trump is acting. He's doing his best to try to fix it. I believe he is at least doing his best. But if you think he's going to fix everything, then I think you're missing it. And the reason I say that is because it used to be I got 50 to 80 emails a day. You know how many I'm getting now? 5 to 8. That indicates to me that the people that follow Prophecy Club are thinking, oh, well, maybe we don't have to follow Prophecy Club, which, by the way, we might say we've noticed that in our donations. They've fallen ever since the election. Don't think Trump has fixed everything. Don't think that the sun is rising when it's really setting. Don't think that the planes coming over the horizon are bringing supplies when they're actually bringing bombs. In other words, don't think that the best is coming when actually, in my opinion, the worst has arrived. This is the very time we need to have our eyes open, our ears bent forward and listening very carefully to the Spirit. So, yes, I do appreciate your emails. You send me a lot of stuff. And so I know sometimes I'm busy and I just delete it and I forget to say thank you. So this is my thank you, thank you, thank you. Even if I don't use it, and it may be that I don't use it that day, and then I have to come back, search for it, find it, cannot tell you how many times your emails have made the program. So that's the first point I want to make. Thank you for your emails. Now, this really kind of has nothing to do with our topic today, but it's a bit of good news. So before I get into all the bad news, let me share a little bit of good news. So Trump is saying when tariffs kick in, many people's income taxes will be substantially reduced, maybe even completely eliminated. I think that I'm seeing behind this that they're removing the old flag, the Constitution, the financial system we have, the Federal Reserve, the IRS. They're removing it. And what he's saying is there are not going to be any income taxes in the new system. So if you read past it, and that's the thing that we prophecy students try to do. We try to, because we know what the Bible says, we can read past what the news is saying. Yes, that's the news. And I'm going to tell you some news today. But hopefully one of the reasons you listen to Prophecy Club is it can tell you the prophecy behind the news. Okay? All right, now let's go on. And I'm not going to read the whole article. I'd spend a lot of time. But I've just got some headlines that I think speak to us. It says, it has begun. Port of Seattle is now empty. 0 inbound ocean container ships. And it's got a picture there. This is a picture of the yard in Seattle that used to be filled with containers. So right now, see that picture behind me? That picture is an accurate picture because this is the picture 2 weeks before this picture arrives. In other words, there's no more a question about whether the food and other shortages are going to be arriving. It is now a foregone conclusion that in the next couple of weeks, 2, 3 on the outside, we will see shortages. Now, whether the Shelves are totally empty. I don't know. Here's another thing. The little purple dots there, between those is supposed to be a bunch of ships waiting. I didn't look this up, but I think that this is actually China. And there's supposed to be a bunch of ships waiting to load. And if you'll notice, there's nothing in the ocean, meaning if they don't put ships in the ocean, they're not going to arrive, meaning we are not, even if they were to fix it this very moment, even if all of a sudden China starts shipping again, it would, well, here, the article says there are presently zero cargo ships docked en route. Even if the global trade war was solved now, it'd still be a minimum of 30, 55 days, maybe even as long as 7 to 9 months before the supply chain normalized. Meaning, we're probably looking at empty shelves in the next few weeks. Inbound shipping container volume is down 80%. If you thought the product shortages outage were bad during COVID, you ain't seen nothing yet. I agree with that. Here's another article. I'm making my point here. The CEOs of Walmart, Target, Home Depot, and Lowe's warn that store shelves all over America could soon be empty. Okay, this is HalTurnerRadioShow.com. This is Most Important News, or Michael Snyder. Here's another one. The collapse of the U.S. home sales is here. Okay, our nation is collapsing. Now, it's kind of like they say you got to break some eggs to make an omelet. Okay, sometimes bad things have to happen to fix things. And that's what we're trying to get a point today, is that some bad times, at least brief bad times, are on the way. An industry insider explains why the coming shortages are going to be so crazy. Special report. We are being warned that there will be empty shelves throughout the U.S. starting in a couple of weeks. I hope, let me read it again. We're being warned that there will be empty shelves throughout the U.S. starting in a couple of weeks. I want to believe, I think that you're listening. I think that you're heeding this warning. Experts are warning that there will be significant shortage in the United States by the end of next month. Okay, so this is another article. And I like this. This is Plan Red by Gordon Chang. It's a book he's written. And he's kind of the expert on China. Look at what he says. Noted China analyst Gordon Chang warns that Xi Jinping believes he must destroy America to accomplish his objectives. We've got some good news here. Hang on. And that Xi already has a plan to do it. I believe that. China's campaign, using every point of contact with American society, is to destroy it. China's penetration of American society has been so thorough that the Communist Party has been able to kill Americans with impunity. He's referring to the COVID thing. The Communist Party is using all its resources to support criminal activity in America. We've been warned of that, okay? How many Chinese came across the border? We don't know. How many of them were actually military-age men? Most of them. How many of them were then given encrypted phones and told where and when to show up for training? We don't know. Xi Jinping's China is preparing to go to war, not just unrestricted war or political war, not just a war of words, but a war of bombs, is what he's saying. Americans see it in the movies, but the Chinese regime is planning to kill Americans in even greater numbers. It's marching the country to war. Now, does prophecy say that we will go to war with China? You know the answer if you've been watching. Does China say that we're going to go to war with China? Okay, does prophecy say it? Let me show you. This is what the angel said to Dmitri, August 3rd, 1984. The fall of America will start with an internal revolution in America started by the communists. Some of the people will start fighting against the government. The government will be busy with internal problems. Then from the oceans, Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America. But that's not the point. Here's the point. Skip the first two paragraphs. You can pause and read them if you want to, but get to the yellow. God will raise up China and Japan and many of the nations. They'll go against the Russians. They'll defeat the Russians. So the word of the Lord is that when Russia attacks, China is actually going to be on our side. Now, let me tell you about a conversation I had with my wife this morning. So I'm the avid news watcher, and she's kind of got her fill of it, frankly, and I don't blame her. I think there's a lot of people get a lot of feel of Prophecy Club, but the things that God is saying, they don't like, the human psyche can only take so much. Kind of like eating cookies, you can only eat so many cookies. Kind of like bad news, you can only have so much bad news. I understand that. But anyway, so she walked through the living room where I'm watching the news and devouring every word of it so I can make sure I bring you all the best news. And she says, there is no way that China, as it is today, is going to agree to 145% tariffs. They are not going to bend the knee to Trump. They are not going to agree with Trump. They are not going to go along with it. And what makes me think is going to happen is someplace over the process of the next few years between now and when the Russians attack to destroy us in 1 hour, that China also has an internal revolution. I recall the prophecy where it said the underground church will have above ground results. And I don't have but just one prophecy saying that there's going to be some kind of an internal revolution in China. But to me, and I think that's what she was saying this morning, China is never going to agree to this unless there's a regime change. That's what Chang is saying. Chang is saying the only way that we're going to get along with China, the only way we're going to resume trade is if there's basically a regime change, as in an internal revolution in China. Could it be that that's what all of the tariffs are about to cause in China? Now, I don't know. I don't have prophecy on it, but let's watch. Now, let's go on to the next point. China is exhibiting end of regime conduct. What's he saying? He's saying that China is heading to an internal revolution. He's saying, this is Gordon Chang saying, that Xi Jinping is going to be overthrown and they'll have new leadership in China. That's the only way this thing with these tariffs with China is going to end. There's another guy on this morning. I don't have an article to show you on it, but he was saying, he says, I think it was Besant, the financial guy. He said that the problem with China is not just the tariffs. He said that they're a nation of cheaters and liars. He said they steal our intellectual property. They won't let our products in. They how do I say it? They lie, cheat, and steal. I wish I could have all the exact details he had. I didn't know I was going to say this, but it's not just a matter of agreeing to a percentage of a tariff. We need to be able to, when they're stealing our intellectual property, they steal our ideas, they remake them, and then sell them around the globe, even sell them in America. He said, so it's not just a few things or a thing or two that can be fixed to fix the problem with China. It's basically saying they need a whole new regime. Basically, it's saying they need a whole new government leadership, kind of like how Trump basically has overthrown Biden. That same kind of thing is going to have to happen in China. And I do recall when one of the prophecies saying about how when there's massive arrests, that they were also heading over to China with train loads, plane loads of documents, and they were going to go to China and other nations and do likewise. So it may very well be, because we know that China is going to be on our side when the Russians attack. So it may very well be that all of this tariff problem, all of these problems with China, and I do not have prophecies on it, I'm speculating, I'm guessing, it could well be that we're about to see an internal revolution in China, because that's what the guy was saying. He said, it's not a matter of tariffs. It's a matter of China is going to have to change. That's what he said. He didn't say change regime, change leadership. He didn't add that extra word, but that's the true meaning of it. Let's go on. At a time when China needs friends, it is going away. It's going out of its way to antagonize not just the Philippines, but also Taiwan, South Korea, and Australia. In other words, it's acting like a big bully. He says this shows that this is end of regime conduct. In other words, China's heading to an internal revolution. China's heading to a major change of leadership, and that fits a couple of prophecies, which is why I'll send you to josephkitchen.com. Look, let me tell you what, just a few minutes ago, I called my wife in and I showed her that on an article I'm about to show you too. I said, look at this. And it was saying, well, no, you remember the article with Hal Turner where it had no more containers there, that within 2 weeks there's going to be empty shelves? And I said, so it's not on the news yet. This is advanced information. But what I want you to do is go to the store and buy anything that we're going to need. Paper towels, toilet paper, food, toothbrushes, whatever else it is. Go and buy anything we're going to need as if, I said, because I don't think this thing with China is going to end anytime soon. She said, I don't either. I don't see it ending anytime soon. I said, all right, then that means that the things that we get from Walmart, especially Costco, Amazon, especially Amazon, most all of those products that Amazon sells all come from China. So try to imagine Amazon basically closing its doors. That's pretty close to what we're talking about happening. If you don't have food, you're going to be standing in line, and you're probably going to be talking under your breath saying, man, I should have been listening to Prophecy Club. They've been telling me this stuff's coming. josephkitchen.com. Here's what you want to do. You want to get a machine package. That's all the gizmos to take the wheat flour and turn it into wheat. Then you need food. 1 person a year, 2 people for a year, 4 people for a year, 6 people a year. I recommend you get more than you need. If your church wants to, they have a plan where churches can get these things in bulk. That would be a very good idea, that the church has some food set aside for the church, not just the homeless, but about to be a lot of homeless church goers, about to be a lot of hungry church members. Okay, let's go on. Now, you remember this? I've covered this many times, but I think, well, here's what keeps coming to me. Let's go to the next to the bottom line. You see those words, Baltic Dry Index is dead? That's my point. Baltic Dry Index, what is that? That has been around for like 150 years. Okay, this is where they keep track of ocean-going vessels moving goods around the world. Look it up. Baltic Dry Index tells you where every boat, every ship is, everything. Names of them, even you get GPS locations, and to certain degrees, with some of them, even what they're carrying, where they started, where they're going, where they're expecting. I mean, it has everything. So when the Baltic Dry Index is dead, it says nothing was moving in trade around the world. This was back in 2020. This was 5 years ago. I know Dana Coverstone. I've had him in my house twice. He's been a guest speaker at 2 or 3 of our crusades. He's a man of God. He hears from God. And apparently, this is getting really close. Now, I'm not going to cover all of this. I've paused enough. You can pause and you can read it. But it's saying basically by December or January of some year, we've been watching for this every year and still hadn't come. But now with the tariffs, with China not shipping, it looks like this is the year. Okay, so what does it say? Well, it says in December, January, things are really, really tough. It says long food lines. There's more. Then around Christmas, December, there was very great sadness. People were having to use their faith. Let's go on to the next one. Then he saw this dark gray snow-like stuff on the road. What's that? That's fallout. Suitcase nukes. So is this telling us that sometime in December, January of some future year, possibly this year, we could start seeing suitcase nukes going off? My opinion, yeah. But again, I thought it was going to happen last year. I thought it was going to happen the year before. I don't know. I don't know when it's going to happen. But it looks more like it's about to happen this year than any other year. I got more. Hang on. I'll pause and read it if you want to, but I'm not going to read all that. Pause and read it. Pause and read it. Okay. Pause and read this too. But he saw in this dream that the thing that started the change in our finances was when they removed the coins. Okay, what was it? 6 weeks ago, Trump had them stop printing pennies. Well, that's the start. So it says first, no more coins. The next says there's no more $1 and $5 bill. It's doing this, hitting down to worthless as leaves blowing in the wind. Now, there's more. Let me go on here. Again, pause to read it if you want to. But this is Brandon Biggs. Who's Brandon Biggs? He's the guy that saw Trump shot in the right ear 3 months before it happened. He used to have 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. Now it's up to almost 600,000. His whole ministry just exploded because he got it right. I think he's somebody we should listen to. Now, a couple of things I want to point out here. He says, I saw people dressed in nice clothes. In other words, all of a sudden, this lack of food hit that quick, okay? No warning. And that's what David Phillips was shown. No warning. That's what Jason Meeks was shown. No warning. So this is your warning. But see, since most people don't listen to the prophets, they don't even believe God even exists, much less talks, much less has prophets. But let me go on. Okay, so the people were standing in line trying to get groceries. There was no food in the stores. Does that sound like it's going to happen in the next couple of weeks? I think so. But again, I was watching for it last year. Who knows? There were cobwebs on the shelves, which represented quite a bit of time, meaning this thing with China, this thing with no food on the shelves doesn't go away quickly. I'm saying you better make sure you have the 3 threes. 3 minutes without air and you're in trouble. Make sure you have N95 masks. 3 days without water and you're in trouble. Make sure you have water to filter and a filter to just dip it up out of some mud puddle. Okay, make sure you have that. And then about 30 days without food. So those are the 3 biggies you got to have. Think it through. Pray, Lord, show me. What do I do? He said he saw a line a mile long for people trying to get food from the stores. And China is going to be laughing because they'll have food. The rest of the world will have food. It's America. Okay, let's go on. I'm not going to read the part with the dash there. China made a trade war with America. See, I think that America, we drew first blood with China. But China's been doing it wrong for a long, long time. They've been doing it real, real wrong. Trump is just trying to fix it. But it's China that makes the trade war because she's the one that doesn't sit down and say, okay. You caught me with my hand in the cookie jar. You caught me. I wasn't doing some things right. I need to change. All supplies for China were not coming over on big ships anymore. I'll read it again. That is now fulfilled, as Jesus said, fulfilled in your ears this day. All the supplies from China were not coming over on the big ships anymore because of something that happens because of the war escalating. Tariffs. When was this? Let me back up and see. Oh, I didn't put the date on there. I did this in a hurry. But I think it was like a year. I think it was last year, okay? People rioting after the dollar crashes. That's what Shane Warren said. Security checks, welfare stamps, whatever entitlements they were supposed to get, they were all upset. That's what Shane Warren was shown. There was another one also that saw the word entitlements. They had their signs marching like a million-man march. Okay, let's skip down. The government declared martial law and brought in the National Guard. What do you think Trump is going to do? He's not going to let them burn buildings and things like that he did back in the COVID days. They put up National Guard Hummers, chained barbed wire fence throughout all the major cities. He's going to do his best to put a stop to it, and that's part of what causes the internal revolution. So pause and read it if you want to. Let me go on to the next point here. I'm running out of time. The purpose is to bring in a new digital platform. Let me say it again. That's really, really big. The purpose is to bring in the new digital platform, a new digital cyber or digital currency. We've been talking about this. God's been telling us about this, I don't know, 5 years? 5 years, okay? so that no man might buy or sell save he had the mark of the name of the beast or the number of his name? Could it be that all of this has been the plan? Remember 1963, when they assassinated JFK, the military intelligence said, we've had enough of this. This cabal, this group of international bankers that hide in the shadows, thinks they rule the world, thinks they can just kill our leaders at will. We got to put a stop to it. So they set about a plan that they've been putting into play, and I've talked about it, so I'll skip a lot of it. But at the end of the day, they chose Trump. Trump to go in, get the presidency from the top down, and to clean the nest of evil out. So what happens? Some of the people start fighting against the government. Okay, so what God has done, he's put the good guy, Trump, backed by a lot of good guys in, and given us Americans a chance to heal. But Babylon is not healed, forsaken. Let every man return to his own country. So what happens when Trump gets in the good guy and he starts trying to clean and purify our nation, as God has laid on his heart to do, then the bad guys from the left come over here and says, no, 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 we don't want you ruling. We don't want you doing all of that. And they start an internal revolution. And in the middle of the internal revolution, Russia says, I see an opportunity, and attack and destroy us. All of this is part of the system, part of the plan. They want to control the global money system. That's how they bring in. Look, it doesn't get any more clearer than this, my brothers and sisters. If you're expecting more, don't expect more. This is it. Signs the last 7 years has already started. I got 90 seconds. Okay, so if you look at Revelation 6, it talks about actually 4 horses. The first horse went forth conquering and to conquer, war. The second war, they should kill one another that was given him a great sword, war. The third horse, measure wheat for a penny, 3 measures of barley for a penny, see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. I do believe this is also, it's a double play. In other words, it's a prophecy that plays twice. One of them says that in the time of the tribulation, that 3/4 of the people saved will be Jews, 1/4 will be Gentiles, or the wheat, or those people that are blood bought. It also is saying that a person works all day long for enough food just to feed themselves for one day. In other words, things get terribly, terribly expensive. Now, here's my point. Does it look like this is happening? Does it look like we're seeing wars start where we got Russia, Ukraine, we got Hamas, we got Israel, and now India, Pakistan is going to war. So there's wars just about every place. I'm saying that, brothers and sisters, you got to get ready. Ask Jesus into your heart and get ready. From EMPShield.com, EMPShield.com, and they have videos up there. It takes about 10 minutes to put on. It's not complicated at all. And if you use the word prophecy, promo code prophecy, you get a $50 discount, and it helps your prophecy class.